Here's one example here. Laura from South Carolina tells us that 20 million Americans are out of work. 8 million illegals have jobs. Immediately deport the illegals, she says, supplementing them with Americans at a new market-determined higher wage. Also, Bill from Florida says, quote, secure our borders and enforce the laws that punish employers that hire illegal immigrants. So are illegal immigrants really hurting U.S. jobs, and should companies who hire them be punished? We want to ask Dan Stein from Federation for American Immigration Reform, also Daryl West from the Brookings Institution. I'll begin first with Daryl. What's your take on this issue?
One of the myths about illegal immigration is that those people do not pay taxes. In fact, they pay sales tax when they make purchases, they pay property taxes when they buy or rent homes, and they also pay income, Medicare, and Social Security taxes. So that idea that one of your viewers sent in that these people are not paying taxes and we should just send them all back, they actually are contributing to the American economy. You
know, but Dan, you're saying that they are actually a net negative when it comes to jobs. Explain your position on that.
Well, the point is that, as the president has said, we're a post-information, high-value-added, post-industrial information society. We need a well-educated labor force. When you import low-skilled labor, and most illegal immigrants are low-skilled, you're essentially subsidizing through education, housing, medical care, and what have you. You're subsidizing for employers imported low-wage labor. It's simply a fact that people here working illegally send a lot of their money back home that wouldn't normally be sent home. I think for Americans, they feel very strongly that in many of the areas where illegal immigrants in particular are working, that's where you see the highest rate of native-born unemployment. You've seen a decline in native-born participation in these labor markets, and people understand fundamentally employers are going to prefer to hire exploitable, low-wage, and those who are demanding less, illegal workers over similarly qualified legal ones. They feel strongly that if the government would begin to identify, apprehend, and remove illegal workers from the labor force, for employers where that work has to be done anyway, you're going to see a drift up in wage rates, stronger bargaining leverage for those employers, and an effort to bring American workers back into those labor markets.
All right, Daryl, let me come to you. This crystallizes around Arizona. And Arizona, it looks to me like it's twofold, their immigration law. Number one, it's a border security issue. I want to get your take on that. And number two, it could be a deportation issue or certainly an undocumented arrest issue. Is it going to work in your judgment?
I don't think the law is going to be effective at achieving the objectives that it has. I mean, the idea that we can just deport all these people, we don't have enough money in terms of law enforcement to round up these people and actually send them back home. And the idea that these illegal workers take jobs that Americans would want, there actually is not a lot of evidence to support that. For example, in Arizona and many other western states, there's a crying need for seasonal agricultural workers. I mean, I grew up on a dairy farm. I know how hard it is to do that work. It's very hard to get Americans to do that. We often rely on immigrants to do exactly that type of job.
I mean, Dan Stein, the debate goes on. Do the Mexican workers or Latin workers displace American jobs, or, as others say, actually contribute to economic growth and create jobs with more vibrant businesses?
Well, Larry, look, the point is if more people coming in to work under any conditions created more jobs, then we would have seen higher job creation figures than what we saw during the 00 period, first decade of the century. Look, I can't sit here and listen to what I feel are misrepresentations of facts. Under the agricultural worker program, farm employers have essentially limitless access to farm labor if they can demonstrate that need. And secondly, you made the point earlier, sir, that illegal aliens, you say, pay into Social Security. They only do that if they're using fraudulent or stolen Social Security documents. They cannot just go get an ITIN number and pay into Social Security.
Okay, Dan, why not bring them into the system? We say, okay, you're here in the country anyway. You're doing a job that, frankly, not a lot of other Americans maybe want to do. So we bring you into the fold. You pay your taxes. You pay into the Social Security transfer system that clearly doesn't have enough money in it. And then it's a win-win for everyone.
Well, we simply do not accept at fair the proposition that it's better to give people amnesty and reward illegal behavior and continue to flood the market with low-skill, so-called cheap labor that's bankrupting all these states over stronger enforcement, removing illegal workers from the labor force, and letting supply and demand work within the domestic labor market. Look, take a look at every state. Take a look at Illinois, California, Texas, Florida,
it's
Arizona.
Actually, I wanted to throw that one at Daryl. Do you agree with this, that it's bankrupting states?
Well, there are states that are having budget problems, but it's not because of illegal immigrants. It's because of their own high spending. But we certainly need, you know, if people are really concerned about illegal immigrants, we should create that pathway to citizenship, force them to pay back taxes, have them learn English, make sure they pass a background test so they're not criminals, and then tax them. That will actually solve a lot of the problem. Right now, these people are paying taxes. They're actually not eligible for many government programs. They're not eligible for Social Security. They're not eligible for welfare.
Right.
There have been studies from the Cato Institute estimating that there are $162 billion in local, state, and federal taxes paid by these illegal immigrants.
Dan, just last point. As long as the Mexican economy is a lousy economy, as long as wages in Mexico are like 1/10 or 1/20th or 1/50th of wages in the United States, how will we ever solve this? I mean, those folks are coming. It's like one large labor market. How do we solve this when we have this tremendous contrast between the Mexican story and the U.S. story?
Well, Larry, look, this country is going into a structural change in its labor market. The long-term prospects for the need for low-skilled labor, semi-skilled labor are clearly limited. Politicians are elected to represent American citizens, put our people to work first. U.S. corporations have primary responsibility, yes, to shareholders, but to ensure community stability by providing good jobs for American workers. We cannot do both. We cannot do everything. Mexico has to take care of its own problems. We know how to enforce our laws. We know how to enforce our borders. But the administration, and this administration and prior administrations, have been unwilling to do what's needed at labor market key intervention points to ensure that people comply with and respect the basic rule of law. We know how to get it done.
Okay. We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We appreciate it. And we've heard what's on your mind.